continued part of our Return the Service campaign, we want to introduce you to our Pivot 11 series. Starting today, over the course of the year, we'll welcome 11 different veterans on or around the 11th of every month to share their individual stories and to shed light on issues they face as they return home. I am thrilled and proud to welcome former Army Captain Katherine Robinson, whose valor is commendable not only for her service, but in the fact that she is also openly gay. Plus, not for nothing, she's also brave enough to perform stand-up comedy. Take a look.
For those of you who don't know me, I was actually a captain in the Army. Patriotic audience, this is good. But actually, I was actually a chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear warfare officer.
What?
Yeah, so I'm sure you can guess my major in college. Theater.
Thank you so much for being here, Katie. Thank you. So I've got to ask, I understand you were a theater major in college, and then you joined the Army?
Yes.
How does a theater major join the Army? You don't really think about those two things correlating that often.
Well, I mean, I was always into sports, very athletic, and then I actually was missing the team part of being in college, and I decided I was going to rush a sorority. And then my voice went up an octave and started like talking all like this. Just not quite me, I guess. And I went from the rush house and I walked down across campus and I saw the Army ROTC tent. And so I pretty much joined a fraternity instead. So.
That's awesome. And I understand you were in the military before Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about what that was like?
I mean, it wasn't the easiest, you know, obviously. I was investigated for homosexual conduct, and it was an 8-month...
What does that mean exactly? Because I think a lot of people hear that, but they don't know exactly what the process is like and what happens to you, I mean, as a human being.
Well, you're put under the microscope. So immediately, when we got back, this was after I did deploy twice. I went to Iraq, Afghanistan. My first deployment in Iraq, I get home, and basically one of the sergeants in my unit ended up beating me up. She was going through some issues and stuff. And so basically what my officer had said, this is either a lover's quarrel or it's a cat fight. And he decided it was a lover's quarrel. And so he put me under the microscope and said, you're going to be under investigation. And so he at first said, well, just report it, you know, and everything will be okay. And then as soon as I reported it, it was me under investigation and not her. And so, you know, I was the officer, so it was
Through that entire process, were there people in the Army who kind of stood by you and kind of put themselves on the line to be there for you, or were you kind of isolated?
No, I was very isolated. Only one officer did reach out, and it was kind of more under the radar, and he said, you know, I've got your back, Katie, you know, you have friends, everything. But, I mean, still, you just feel alone, especially, you know, and ostracized. And my family, I mean, to get my family to get phone calls from the Army, or my friends, you know, people I haven't talked to in years were getting phone calls.
All as part of this, whatever, so-called investigation.
Yeah.
And, I mean, what is it like to actually, so did you see a measurable difference after Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed while you were in the Army, or did it feel the same way?
No, I felt, I mean, it was rather a big difference, I think, especially when I was in Afghanistan when the repeal happened, and then we were implementing it. So they still said, don't come out. Whatever you do, don't come out. So we waited till September. I get back, and the first thing that happens is literally 2 days after I got back from Afghanistan, the repeal happens. And, I mean, I'm elated. I'm still not going to tell people. It's nobody's business, really, you know, who I'm in love with, right? So, but this soldier walks up to me, and we're in front of, like, basically the general's office and everything, and she's like, ma'am, isn't it so great we can be out and gay? And I was like,
oh, man.
I wasn't going to say anything. But like,
well, there you go.
Well, we don't all have to come out like that.
Yes.
But,
So when was the first time that you, you know, brought someone around other people, or when was the first time you kind of, you know, outed yourself?
I went to a military ball. So I was going to be getting out of the military, but I went to a military ball that year, and I brought my fiance at the time. And so she was in the unit as well. And so this was our kind of, you know, we're a couple and in love and all this stuff. And everything seemed fine. Of course, immediately it was like the whispers of like,
Of course.
we have lesbians in the unit, you know?
Yeah.
And, but everything was fine. Everyone was taking it great, and we were just kind of doing our own thing the whole time. We ended up dancing together, slow dancing together. And that's when I noticed there was this weird issue going on. And my commander and my sergeant major ended up coming up to us, approaching us and telling us to get out and telling us that we're inappropriate. And my sergeant major ended up shoving me across the dance floor and telling me I was an abomination and disgusting. Wow. And so that was really tough. My commander had begged me not to report anything because he thought he would be in trouble as well. So, and I'd said, sir, my suggestion to you is to report this right away. Report this and support your soldiers, because this right now, this is the first incident. This is the first incident in the military since the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And this is going to set the president's standard for how everything else is going to be handled in the future. And so if a sergeant major can shove an officer, a captain, across the dance floor, then who's to say that a new private coming into the unit is going to get shoved across and maybe killed?
So this being the first incident, you'd kind of expect like a very wide sort of press coverage of this, right? Like I would expect that. So how did the press handle this? How did the Army handle the press? I mean, what happened there?
I put it up on Facebook right away, and I said, you know, getting shoved across the dance floor is, you know, a great way to end my military career, you know, because I was literally 1 foot out the door. Right. And I didn't realize that a friend of the friend worked for the Huffington Post, and she caught wind of the story and wanted to do this whole piece, and I'd said, I don't want anything yet, you know, I want the Army to take care of it. And so she was very, very nice. She kept names out of it, kept a lot of things out of it, but that sparked Fortran picked that up in a heartbeat, and I was getting bombarded with calls like, please don't put this out there, we're going to do something, we promise, you know.
What happened to the sergeant major?
After the investigation was over, they found out that he was guilty of that, and he also was lying and trying to sweep it under the rug, so he ended up getting relieved of command, which is a huge deal.
I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for being so brave and sharing this story on here. We all really appreciate it. To get involved with our Return the Service campaign, head on over to takepart.com/returntheservice for more information. If veterans issues are as important to your family as they are to mine, go ahead and share your thoughts in the comments below. Plus, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and click videos below for more Take Part Live.